Week and a half until the Super Bowl, and in the wake of the New Year's Day terror attack, officials outlined new security measures. Good evening, I'm John Snell.
And I'm Meg Gatto. Governor Jeff Landry says Super Bowl security will include checkpoints around the French Quarter.
Serena Wilson has details.
It's not just the area around the Superdome that will have enhanced security for the upcoming Super Bowl. So will the French Quarter. Governor Landry announced that the quarter will be an enhanced security zone from February 5th through February 10th.
There'll be checkpoints that are set up at each entry to prevent and deter the introduction of any destructive explosive materials. Coolers and ice chests of any kind will be prohibited in our enhanced security zone. So in the French Quarter, coolers and ice chests will be prohibited.
The Bourbon Street attacker was seen on video placing ice chests in the quarter before he mowed down pedestrians on Bourbon Street. The FBI says they contained IEDs. This state flyer says cooler backpacks will also be off limits in the quarter.
Any bags or containers larger than 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches, which is basically the size of a lady's clutch, are subject to search by law enforcement prior to entering the enhanced security zone. If an officer at the enhanced security checkpoint in the quarter asks to search your bag that you're carrying in excess of the size limitations that I just went over, you are free to refuse it, but you are not free to enter.
And Homeland Security officials stress that there could be even more restrictions during events put on by the NFL.
So like there's going to be a footprint around the Superdome. There's going to be a footprint around the NFL Experience and other venues.
I asked the governor if we can expect additional enhanced security zones for the Super Bowl.
I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. All of those are going to be built upon intelligence and threat levels, right?
And about his confidence in the security planning.
I have a high degree of confidence in the cooperation that we're getting between the local agencies such as the City of New Orleans and NOPD and our federal partners, that this is going to be an unprecedented and safe event. Nothing is 100%.
I am more than confident in the deployment strategy and the forced unified program that we are activating for Super Bowl.
Governor Landry says over 300 Louisiana National Guardsmen will be involved in security for the upcoming Super Bowl. He says the nation's new Homeland Security Chief, Kristi Noem, is expected to come to Louisiana next week for a briefing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Hurting Humanity channel. As you heard, the Super Bowl is approaching, which means, of course, we're on high terror alert. And that might sound like a form of fear porn, but I'll get into why it's important to pay attention to an event happening at the Super Bowl, because the predictive programming is so thick and so layered, and they've been putting it in movies and television shows for decades now. And what we've seen already at the start of 2025 is their foot once again on the gas pedal. While it might have felt like they were taking their foot off the gas after COVID, it obviously feels like they're ramping up false flags, they're ramping up artificial intelligence infrastructure. They are ramping it all up, right? What have we seen so far in 2025? We've seen the first day of the year, a cyber truck explode outside of a Trump casino in Las Vegas. We saw obviously what happened in Bourbon Street, or on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, which happens to be where the Super Bowl is occurring this year. We saw the story of the guy who drove his truck and killed all of those pedestrians who happened to have a flag on the back of his truck, which was planted there by the CIA, which was, of course, an ISIS flag, which is a branch of the CIA. So, of course, they had one had one handy to plant on the back of his truck. So, as we move closer to the Super Bowl, we're going to hear the same stories we hear every year. Every year they talk about heavy security threats. You even heard them talking about in that video the footprint around New Orleans. There's going to be a footprint around the stadium, a footprint on Bourbon Street. Those are things you got to get used to hearing, because Remember the carbon footprint, your footprint, a tracking system, tracking and monitoring. The government even talking about in that news clip being able to go into your bag. Hey, you could reject us searching you, patting you down, but you can't enter Bourbon Street. You can't enter all these areas that are far outside of where the Super Bowl will be played. You can't enter without allowing us to search you. And of course, this is all leading to a surveillance state. So the more false flags that occur, the more government-created events that occur, the more we're pushing ourselves towards a surveillance state. And with Donald Trump in power, it's more and more likely to happen sooner than later, since he's already announced his AI infrastructure plan. So the congressional delegation is reviewing Super Bowl security. There is another report of threats, of course, a terror scare potential for the Super Bowl. You might remember last year when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, how they had that rally after the Super Bowl, that parade, which was very clearly a false flag government event. I actually covered that in detail on multiple platforms and was removed from those platforms when I covered it. And of course, the videos are available on the website, but I got wiped out quick. Multiple channels, multiple platforms for exposing that. When we had that guy, the phone of the people who supposedly was there, telling different stories on different news stations, claiming to have been shot, but it was already out of the hospital, claiming their kid was shot. The stories were just unbelievable. And that's how they always are. They're always easy to spot because they're poorly produced. So getting back to the Super Bowl this year, why do we think that there could potentially be an event? Well, let's think about it. Let's think about what predictive programming is. Why do you think there's a chance that there could be aliens floating around in supposed space? Well, you only think that because you've been programmed through predictive programming, through mind control, to believe that aliens are real. That's why there's about 8 trillion alien films, right? Movies about aliens, movies about UFOs. You have the franchises like Aliens, you have E.T., you have Men in Black. The list goes on and on. Coneheads, Independence Day. And those weren't happening by coincidence. They weren't happening because people wanted to write movies about that because it fascinated them, this make-believe theory of aliens. They do it to condition you. And that's why we know we're getting closer and closer to Project Bluebeam and a massive alien deception. Let's look at the other predictive programming over the years that we've seen. How many movies are about the climate? How many movies are about tornadoes coming up here, coming up there, tsunamis hitting here, tsunamis hitting there, San Andreas, all the stuff we just saw with Los Angeles, all these movies about natural disasters wiping out cities, earthquakes, right? Over and over and over again. The Day After Tomorrow, 2012, Deep Impact, Twister 1, Twisters 2, where they even had the fire tornado that just appeared in California. That's predictive programming. These people weren't just fascinated with storms. They weren't just saying, hey, storm movies make money. They were conditioning you to accept these events when suddenly all of these bizarre weather phenomena start happening, which aren't real weather phenomena. They're man-created weather events. Or we could just look at the most obvious one. After, of course, the outbreak hit in 2020, people started saying to themselves, oh, wait, how are people falling for this hook, line, and sinker? Well, they've been conditioned into it, right? World War Z, Containment, Contagion, 8 Monkeys, The Stand, Outbreak, movie after movie after movie about this outbreak occurring, this virus going out there and causing people to die, causing quarantines, causing mass lockdowns, causing zombie apocalypses, right? So then we can move from all of the predictive programming around outbreaks and virus outbreaks and look at what's happening now. How many films out there from the 1980s, 90s talk about artificial intelligence, rogue artificial intelligence, right? We have movies like Terminator, which everybody knows. We have movies like Upgrade, iRobot, right? All of these films that are about artificial intelligence, way before they, of course, release artificial intelligence on the public. You're telling me that they just came up with these ideas? James Cameron just had this idea in his sleep in the 1980s when the internet wasn't even unleashed on the public yet? It's conditioning. It's programming. So look at all the things I just showed you and think about all the stuff going on in our world now, right? From alien deceptions that are lurking, where you keep hearing about the government hiding alien stuff from you, where you wouldn't even believe in the notion of an alien if they weren't feeding it to you, would you? All this stuff with the climate, right? We've gotten used to all this conditioning with weather phenomena and thinking that they can't be man-made, that you're actually believing the narrative that they're feeding you about the climate. The same with the outbreak, conditioning you into accepting that there's a virus floating in the air. People are getting on planes and spreading it from here to there, and you got to lock down. You got to quarantine yourself. All the way to the stuff with the robots, right? Which brings me to the programming that's in place for the Super Bowl. There are movies that have been showing us in television shows for decades now, predictive programming around a terror event happening at a major sporting event, specifically the Super Bowl. There are movies like Black Sunday, which would be very fitting for a Black Swan Sunday event, wouldn't it? Or films like 2 Minute Warning, 91,000 people, 33 exit gates, 1 sniper. Or even recently, in the last decade or so, we saw the film The Dark Knight Rises, where the stadium is blown up by Bane. There is programming out there, and I'm going to show it to you now, that shows that they have plans for an event at a Super Bowl. Will it be this year? Only time can tell. But they don't waste their time putting these things in movies because they're trying to be creative or artistic or make money. It's programming. That's what movies and television are called, programming. And what they're programming is you. And here are some clips of them programming you into believing an event happening at a Super Bowl could come true. And maybe it will.
The National Football League welcomes you to Miami's Orange Bowl in the championship of professional football.
What exactly is this Super Bowl?
Are you out of your mind?
Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire. And Tom, you can feel the pressure building up all week. So here we go. Super Bowl is underway. By God, here it comes. Corley to stadium, Corley to stadium. Signal red alert. Get the president out of the stadium. All right, we're gonna shoot the thing down.
You can't shoot it down. It's filled with helium.
We are going to kill the pilot. If anything happens to me, you use this on the backup fuse.
It's going right into the stadium.
There's a bomb on the way.
Black Sunday. It could be tomorrow.
Championship Sunday, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Inside the stadium, 91,000 cheering fans, 33 exit gates. Somewhere in the stadium, an assassin waits.
Pad off it, Gary. Pad off it quick. Don't go back to that shot unless I tell you. Understand? Just stay off it. Move!
Who will his target be? 91,000 lives that will never be the same.
Why do you take such pleasure in telling people we're not married?
There's this guy. He's gonna kill me.
Still nervous? That's right. We're still gonna wait, too. Just don't get itchy.
What exactly did you see?
I told you. A man with a rifle.
You get your men into place ready to move, but it's no go till we get all the VIPs out. The VIPs. The probable targets.
SWAT 6 to all SWAT units. The suspect is up, armed, and at the north end of the parapet.
We're coming up in the 2-minute warning. You ought to have your people in place by then. When the 2-minute whistle blows, it's your ball game.
He's up!
2-minute warning. After that, sudden death. This is the motion picture you have heard about. This is the motion picture you have read about. Soon, you will be talking about the motion picture shock of the year. 2-minute warning.
Sir! Yeah, Cabot. It's Ryan! The bomb is in
a bomb. Nuclear. It arrived in Baltimore this morning.
Those people at the stadium.
Trap, pull everyone out. Bain has been pouring concrete laced with explosives.
Where?
Let the games begin.
So tons of predictive programming surrounding the Super Bowl. It's just a question of when do they decide? When do they say, hey, this is the year? And why does it start to feel like we're going to start seeing them ramp up these false flags as if they haven't already in the month of January 2025? One of these years, they're going to carry out one of these events at a major sporting event. I mean, there is even a movie that came out recently, right, with M. Night Shyamalan called The Trap, where a character is at a concert. And of course, by the way, in the movie The Trap, if you actually look at the poster, I mean, this is how obvious this stuff is, right? They deliberately put the all-seeing eye right in the movie poster. I mean, is that coincidental too, right? But a man and his teenage daughter realize they're at the center of a dark and sinister event while watching a concert. So one of these times, the event is going to be carried out in the United States of America. And with Donald Trump in power, it wouldn't surprise me if now was in fact the time. But nobody out there, whether you believe it'll happen this year or next year, nobody out there can deny the predictive programming. These aren't coincidences, the amount of movies that they make about the same topic, the same subject. People just are in such overload of entertainment and information and always looking at things and looking at things and looking at this and looking at that and just constantly looking and being entertained and moving on that they don't even realize. They don't even stop and say, hey, you know, what if I wanted to be a Hollywood writer or Hollywood director? What if I had an idea that I wanted to get out there? And you go, well, you got to be creative. Okay, well, I have a creative idea that's never been done before. How many people say that? Tons. So why are all the movies about the same topics? Why are there thousands of films about aliens? Isn't some production company going, yeah, it's pretty boring. I mean, we've heard it a million times. I mean, it sounds like Independence Day. Wouldn't you have thought when they pitched Independence Day that it sounded a lot like Aliens or, you know, Prometheus or any of these other ones about black goo or aliens? Wouldn't you have thought that or said that? Somebody? Well, it's a different twist on it. Well, wouldn't you just make Alien 3, 4, and 5? Right? That's like saying, well, we're going to make a horror movie. Well, who's the killer going to be? Well, he's going to be a serial killer. He's going to be masked. Oh, he is? Yeah, he's going to be called Michael Myers. They go, well, that's the Halloween franchise. Well, you know, that's my idea. Well, they shut the door in your face. And they go, well, we can't do that. I mean, it's called Halloween. What are you going to call the movie? I'm going to call it Serial Killer Sandwich, and put Freddy Krueger in it. I mean, it makes no sense. All of these films are here to program us. All of these television shows that you think are fiction are conditioning you, whether it's subliminally into accepting agendas that they're trying to push or conditioning you into accepting these events as being events from who they tell you they're from, right? Because who's always the bad guy in these terror events? Well, it's the boogeyman, right? None of these movies, the bad guy is never your own government doing it. In Black Sunday or any of these Super Bowl bomb movies, then they're going to come out and say, hey, the President of the United States and the Senate and the House went rogue and they decided to blow up the Super Bowl. No, of course not. It's your boogeyman on the outside. So when these events do occur, you've already been programmed to believe it's the boogeyman in Russia, the boogeyman in China, or more specifically, the boogeyman hiding out in the caves wearing the towel around his head, right? Those are the ones they want you to think it is, but it's really your own government. But that's how conditioning works and predictive programming works. They already condition into you who could be responsible for these types of events before they actually happen. What do you think they've been doing with the cyber attack? They're constantly telling you that a cyber attack is coming, right? And you go, well, why, if you know it's coming, why can't you stop it? Like, well, we can't stop it. It's going to be Russia. And you're like, what? Yeah, Russian hackers. Well, isn't it your job? Don't you have advanced technology to stop it from occurring? Oh, no. And how do you know it's going to be Russian hackers? They send you a letter in the mail? No, because they're programming you. They're programming you for when a massive cyber attack happens to already accept the narrative that they feed you. Russian hackers, right? A guy wearing a hoodie hiding in his, grandma's basement or in a factory somewhere in the middle of the Soviet Union or wherever they decide to put the guy, right? And then you're supposed to believe it. Or just like these events you see with the Super Bowl, you automatically, what? You hear a terror event at Super Bowl, what's automatically you're going to think? You're going to think ISIS. You're going to think in a cave. You're going to think some guy, we got to go get him. You got to do this. You're never going to think your own government because you've been programmed to think it's these boogeymen that they constantly create. So keep an eye on the Super Bowl. The things that are, the things that surround it that make it more and more, make you think more and more to yourself, is it going to be this year? Is one, the fact that it's in New Orleans, where we just had that terror event, which was your own government, that terror event on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, that occurred. And of course, the rampant stuff that we're seeing with Donald Trump makes me think that they don't even need to ease you in, because people will defend Donald Trump immediately. We had the helicopter crash into the plane, right? Blame it on DEI. All you see is what? All you see is conservatives and Democrats doing what they've been trained to do, fight each other about who's responsible. You're responsible because Biden put all the DEI hires in. No, you're responsible because Trump cut federal working funds, right? And that's how they stay continuing to get away with what they get away with. They keep everybody fighting over nonsense while they point in different directions, and then they'll just keep rolling out false flags, right? What'll the excuse be if there is a false flag at the Super Bowl? Oh, Trump cut federal workers would be one side, right? What'll the other side be? Oh my goodness, the border was open and they came across the border, and we'll get a story within 12 hours of how a truck was spotted coming through the border, or something similar, just like we heard in the PSYOP that occurred on New Year's Day down in New Orleans. So keep an eye. Every year it's important to keep an eye on these stories because the programming tells us we should keep an eye on these stories. And remember, there's always talk of a Black Swan event. Maybe it'll be a Black Swan Sunday. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.